You slept the night before, you drank your coffee this morning, you showed up, you checked things off the list. So, how do we still end up feeling so drained at the end of the day? What if it isn't your schedule that's wearing you out? What if it's all the stuff that you're carrying, the invisible stuff, the stuff that others can't see? If you're a woman who's in a professional career, constantly taking care of everyone else, you're the dependable one. You're the one that everyone calls, the one who always figures it out, the one who keeps the family moving, the one who rarely asks for help. I want you to know something. You're not weak and you're not failing, and you're definitely not alone. As women, we just often believe that life is busy and that that's normal. But often the reality is that women are just carrying the invisible weight of their everyday lives, a weight that is never meant to be carried. I'm Jessica, and I'm so grateful that you are here. Welcome back to my channel, Hit Reset on Life, where we journey together to help you reclaim your time, restore your energy, and to create a life that you don't need to escape from. If you're new here, then welcome. Every week, we take a practical step towards living with more intention, reclaiming our energy, and refinding our joy. And in today's episode, we're talking about the E in my reset method. Last week's episode, we completed the first step, which is the R in reset, and that is to recognize. In that step, we took a pause and we realized all the ways that we're living on autopilot. And today we're going to take the next step, which is the E in reset, and that is to evaluate. Because once you realize that something needs to change, once you acknowledge, once you pause and acknowledge the things that need to change because they're contributing to your burnout, then the next question is what's really draining my energy and why? So if you're ready, let's hit reset together. Okay, so burnout isn't always about time. When I personally had experienced my own bout with burnout a few years ago, honestly, initially I thought I had a time management problem. I just thought to myself, if I become more organized, then I can be more productive. And if I'm more productive, that means I'm being efficient. And I think if I can be more productive and more efficient, then I would just feel so much better and have so much more energy, right? So I bought the planners. You know what's funny is I saw this reel recently on social media and it made me laugh. It was a picture of a woman in the journal aisle at Target. And it said something like, why is it that every time I think I'm going to buy a new journal, I believe it's going to fix my life? That was me once upon a time. So I was the one buying all the planners. I was getting the hard book cover ones. I was getting the small ones that would fit in my purse. I was using electronic ones, cute ones. I was color coding my calendar. I listened to a few podcasts and read a couple of books on how to do better time management. But it's like no matter how organized I got, and I'm a very organized person, I was still feeling exhausted. I was still checking off a lot of boxes, but I was still feeling exhausted. And then I had realized in my own healing journey from burnout that the calendar wasn't my problem. My to-do list wasn't my problem. And this was a really important realization for me because that is life. Life is filled with all of the responsibilities and to-dos. And that should be okay, but it shouldn't be draining, right? What I then realized was consuming all my energy were my beliefs. I believed that I had to be available all the time. I believed that the longer my to-do list, the more productive I was and the more valuable I was to everyone. I believed that if I said no, I was going to let somebody down. I believed that everyone else's needs needed to come before mine. And if you think about that, can any planner, whether it's hard paper or electronic, can any planner really fix any of that? That's when I realized that burnout is not a time management problem. It's an awareness problem, which brings me to today's step I want to suggest. Okay, so think about your cell phone. Even when you're not using it, there are apps that are constantly updating you. Now, funny thing is, That the phone itself, with all those apps running in the background that are constantly updating you, that phone too, think about how it's affecting the battery charge. All that activity is draining your phone's battery. And our lives are not that much different. There are invisible energy leaks running in our background every single day. Maybe it's the feeling of responsibility for everyone's happiness, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the never asking for help. It's the feeling guilty when you need a rest, when you want to take a nap, or simply take a break. It's constantly checking your work messages, even outside of your work hours. And it's in all the ways that you're trying to meet expectations that in reality are probably more self-imposed than what anybody's putting on you. These everyday subtle background things are not dramatic. They're subtle, but when they're working all together in your everyday, you're going to be exhausted. So now here's the question one day that I asked myself. I really wanted to take a look at how I was contributing to my own exhaustion because something I do know is that I cannot control many variables in my life. I cannot control others. I cannot control what they want or what they need. But I can control what's within me. And I asked myself, what expectations am I putting on myself that don't actually come from other people? And it's just from me. Once I started digging into that question for myself, it stopped me because I realized that many of the pressures that I was feeling weren't coming from anybody at work and weren't coming from anybody at home. They were coming from me. I had honestly created unrealistic expectations for myself. I was expecting myself to always be available to everyone whenever they needed me. I expected myself to be the resourceful one and the dependable one for everybody. I was the one who always felt like I had to achieve. I always had to help. I always said yes. I didn't want to say no. Yeah, it's no wonder I was feeling so exhausted. My mind was just on constant go day and night. When we pause to evaluate things like this, like how am I contributing to my own situation? First thing to understand is that evaluation isn't about blaming yourself or judging yourself. It's just about becoming so much more aware and then getting curious. Because when you have that curiosity leads to more awareness. And when you have so much more awareness, you actually begin to have choices. And when you have choices, that's where real freedom begins. Okay, so for this week, I don't want you to try fixing anything. I just want us to increase our awareness on how we're contributing to our own situations and how situations we're involved in every day affect our energy level. So it's more just this week about really noticing, actually pausing to think about how something is draining your energy. Just become a student of your own life. If I could be in your life and watch you in a 24-hour period, just be a shadow to you in a 24-hour period, what would I see happening? That's what I want you to do. I want you to be your own shadow for this week and notice and really intentionally realize the conversations that you're having, the ways you're showing up, the things that are draining you. And maybe there's things that are giving you energy. So pay attention and keep in mind these following questions. What's constantly draining me in my day? Is there anything and what is it that's consistently maybe filling me up in my day? Is there anything that's making you feel better? What conversations leave you drained? Why are those conversations leaving you drained? Are there any points in your day to day in your life where you're feeling resentment? Are there any moments in your day to day in your life that are emotionally pulling from you? Is there any moment in your day or your week where you actually feel a moment of peace? Are you experiencing any of that? What activities in your day are just making time fly by and disappear? What activities in your day to day feel heavy even before you even get them started? We're not looking to change anything right now. We're just looking at really pausing and paying attention. What I am looking for is patterns. When you start thinking about all of these things, you might start recognizing patterns. This is how I was able to figure some of this out for myself and make some changes that helped me reclaim my time and energy. Okay, so here's your reset challenge for this week. This week's reset challenge is simple. If you haven't already, get yourself a journal, or if you like journaling in your phone, that works too. And on a page, I want you to, just like we did last week, but this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. I want you to write my energy as the header on that page again. You're going to divide that page into two columns. One column is going to say my energy drainers, and one column is going to say my energy givers. And at least for the next 3 days, pay attention to every conversation, every meeting, every obligation, every activity, and to yourself, your thoughts. And I want you to ask yourself during all of these different events and situations, did that drain me or did that fill me up? And I want you to write it down in the corresponding column. We're not editing anything. We're not judging anything. We're not blaming anything. We're just observers in our life for the next 3 days at least. And again, what I'm looking for is that when you have this stuff written down, it really forces you to really think about what's happening. Autopilot is a tricky thing. Autopilot, which is very easy for us to fall into, masks a lot of the problems that we actually have within our own reach to help ourselves navigate and come out better and stronger. But we can't do that if we're not paying attention and actually really pinpointing the issues and the situations and the events in our life. When you have these patterns starting to appear, they start building your roadmap. So I also like to always give you a reflection question for the week. Here's your journal prompt for this week. If I stopped living according to everyone else's expectations, what would I do differently? If I stopped living to everyone else's expectations, what would I do differently? That is your question for this week that I want you to think about, consider journaling about. You can take your time with it. Think about it throughout the week. Write honestly. Be honest with yourself. Your answers don't have to make sense to anyone else. Your answers only have to be true to you. All right. Well, if today's conversation resonated with you, please do hit like on this video. It would help me a lot reach more women like us that could use this talk. And I'd also love to invite you into my community. I started a school community in which I'm inviting like-minded women who are achieving great things in our lives with our careers and our families, but are definitely at a point where we're feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. I'm inviting us into this community where we can share our experiences, hear from each other, learn some perspective or new tricks or tips from each other. It's where women come together to continue these conversations. Inside the community, you'll find 3 free wellness courses that I created, one for life, one for health, and one for career. I offer some guided journaling prompts, exclusive teachings. I'm going to be kicking off monthly live coaching sessions as well in September. Inside the community, I'll tune in once a month and we can all hop on a Zoom call together and I can provide some helpful guidance and tips, exercises, or just coffee conversation, answer questions to help us all along. It is a community of women who can truly understand what we're all going through because you don't have to do this alone. I want to